What connects Sun Wukong, the Chinese monkey king, and Susanoo, the tempestuous Japanese storm god? And who are the supreme gods in their pantheons? China and Japan, as close neighbors, share a complex history, from early migrations to the Mongol invasions. Because of this interrelationship, religions like Confucianism and Taoism were introduced from China into Japan, shaping both Chinese and Japanese mythologies. So, what sets their gods apart? Thunder gods, Lei Gong versus Ryujin. Lei Gong is the ill-tempered Chinese god of thunder, married to a lightning goddess who uses mirrors to create flashes that accompany his thunder. The Japanese Ryujin is a thunder god who was born with his twin Fujin from the rotting corpse of his mother, Izanami. Both Lei Gong and Ryujin are demonic-looking, with Lei Gong resembling an ugly man with dragon-like features, wings, claws, and blue skin. Ryujin, red-skinned with a demon's face, carries a ring of taiko drums on his back to create thunder, while Lei Gong uses a drum and mallet. Where Ryujin is seen as more serious and powerful, Lei Gong is often portrayed as a clumsy, moody god, who despite his intimidating appearance can be quite comical. His terrible aim often leads to accidental acts of kindness. In one myth, he was battling a demon and struck a hunter. When the hunter awoke, he had an apology note pinned to his chest from Lei Gong, gifting the man 12 extra years of life. Both gods were seen as terrifying yet ultimately good. Ryujin, initially evil, chased his father out of the underworld shortly after birth. According to Buddhist myth, when he and Fujin began causing destruction, it took 33 gods to defeat them, leading to their conversion to Buddhism and their role as protectors of Buddhist shrines. Death gods, Yama versus Izanami. Yama, also known as King Yan, is the Chinese god of the dead and lord of the 10-layered Chinese underworld, known as Diyu. The Japanese deity Izanami is both a creation goddess and a goddess of the dead as queen of the Japanese underworld Yomi. Izanami has a much more fearsome appearance than Yama, who has a more bureaucratic look. With his judge's cap, long beard, and constantly scowling red face, he looks more like your typical middle management. Whereas Izanami's once beautiful face is now literally a rotting corpse, with decaying flesh that is so riddled with maggots that her husband ran away from the sight of her. Both Yama and Izanami have a retinue of assistants. In the 10-layered Diyu, Yama has 10 courts, each with a judge working under him, but his most important assistants are known as Horseface and Oxhead, who guard the gates of the underworld. Izanami initially had control of her sons Ryujin and Fujin, along with terrifying hags known as Shikome to do her bidding. Their morality is also a source of difference. Yama is seen as fearsome, but not evil, whereas Izanami, who once helped create the world until she was burnt to death by her son Kagutsuchi during childbirth, is now evil. She is said to have promised to kill 1,000 people a day, so her husband Izanagi has to create 1,500 to counteract that. Creation gods, Nuwa versus Izanagi. Nuwa is the snake-like Chinese creation goddess, sometimes referred to as the Great Mother of Humans. Izanagi is the creation god and husband of the death goddess Izanami, and together they created the world and islands of Japan. A striking difference between the two is their looks. Nuwa has a serpentine look, with a long snake's body with a beautiful female head on top. Izanagi has a much more human-like look, often pictured with a beard. Nuwa created humans with mud. It is said that she sculpted people out of yellow clay after a great flood, but grew bored partway through and started to slack. So the first, perfectly formed carvings became rich, successful people, and the malformed, sludgy ones became the poor. Whereas Izanagi created the world with a spear and his wife Izanami. With his wife, he stood on a bridge stirring the world with a magical spear. He then had children with his sister/wife Izanami, who became gods and goddesses that brought nature to the world. Then, after his wife died, Izanagi ventured into the underworld to look for her, and fled when he realized she was an undead monstrosity. War gods, Guan Yu versus Hachiman. Guan Yu, often referred to as Guan Di in his deity form, is worshipped in China as the god of war. Hachiman, the Japanese god of war, is revered both as a Shinto deity and a bodhisattva in Japanese Buddhism. Both of these gods were based on real historical figures who became deified, turned into gods after death. Guan Yu started as a bean curd seller in his youth and rose up to become a famed military general during the Three Kingdoms period, serving under the warlord Liu Bei. His exploits were detailed and romanticized in the 14th century novel, Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Hachiman was also likely deified from a real figure, Emperor Ojin Tenno, whose life was also probably exaggerated, apparently living to 109. His mother was the famous Empress Jingu, who is said to have invaded Korea while pregnant with Ojin/Hachiman. Guan Yu as a war deity is seen as a lot more of an actual warrior than Hachiman, with even his enemy Cao Cao capturing him and instead of killing him, saw his talent and made him his general for a while, whereas Hachiman was seen as more of a tutelary war god, acting as a patron or guardian of warriors. Dragon gods, Dragon King versus Ryujin. The Dragon Kings, also humorously named Long Wang, are draconic deities worshipped in Chinese mythology. Ryujin, also sometimes identified with the god Watatsumi, is seen as the Japanese dragon god of water. Like dragons in most Asian mythologies, both of these dragon gods are associated with water and the sea. Both Ryujin and the Dragon Kings live in grand underwater palaces. The Dragon Kings live surrounded by riches in palaces with mountains as entrances. Ryujin's palace, known as Rugu, is made of red and white coral with two magical tide jewels, one that can cause floods and one to make water recede. Ryujin, as son of Izanami and Izanagi, was born a god. The Dragon Kings, however, are said to undergo a transformation into a deity. They start off as a simple carp. With enough strength, they jump over a dragon gate, instantly transforming them into a draconic god. Trickster gods, Sun Wukong versus Susanoo. Sun Wukong, the monkey king of Chinese mythology, is a deity who rises from a lowly monkey to become a great sage. Susanoo, the brother of Amaterasu and son of Izanagi, is the Japanese god of the sea and storms. Both Susanoo and Sun Wukong have strange births. Susanoo was born from his father's nose. The story of Sun Wukong is best told through the novel Journey to the West, where it is said he was born from a magical rock. A popular misconception is that Sun Wukong is a fictional character made only for the novel. Evidence shows worship for him as early as the 13th century, and there is a shrine still dedicated to him in Taiwan today. The main similarity between Sun Wukong and Susanoo is their classification as trickster gods. A trickster god in mythology is an intelligent deity that goes against conventions, plays tricks on others, and are often impulsive and self-serving. Not necessarily evil, but they can be. Other examples include the West African Anansi and the Norse Loki. Susanoo reveals his spoilt and self-serving nature when he gets given domain of the seas by his father. He isn't happy with this, so throws a tantrum, saying he'd rather have the forbidden underworld instead, and shows his impulsiveness by reacting to losing a competition with Amaterasu by throwing a dead pony at her. Sun Wukong is seen as a prankster in the Journey to the West and corresponding myths. He impulsively steals peaches, wine, and pills of immortality and becomes full of himself when he declares himself the great sage equal to heaven, and tries to usurp the Jade Emperor because he believes he is more suited to the role. Despite being one of the main three gods in Japanese mythology, Susanoo isn't shown to be all that strong physically. He often resorts more to trickery and his wit than combat. For example, he is tasked with killing a 9-headed dragon, but instead of fighting it head-on, he gets it drunk and leads it into a trap before killing it. The Monkey King, however, has numerous abilities. He becomes immortal 7 times over, has 72 heavenly transformations, from turning into a fish to growing to 100,000 feet tall, and can leap insane distances using his cloud somersault. Supreme gods, the Jade Emperor versus Amaterasu. The Jade Emperor, also known as Yu-Di, became the most important Chinese deity after the creation god Shangdi was incorporated into his identity. Amaterasu, the daughter of creation gods Izanagi and Izanami, is the supreme god of the Japanese pantheon. Both Amaterasu and the Jade Emperor are said to be linked to the emperors and rulers on the earth. Amaterasu is said to be the sacred ancestor of the Japanese imperial family. Every emperor's family tree supposedly links back to Amaterasu. The Jade Emperor is the head of the Chinese heaven, which mirrors the organization of Earth, with complex ministries and delegates. Emperors rule the earth in the same way as the Jade Emperor rules heaven. They both also have trickster gods as antagonists in their myths. The Jade Emperor has his special feast ruined by son Wukong stealing the peaches of immortality. Amaterasu's tormentor is her brother Susanoo. After he throws a dead pony at her and destroys her rice fields, she hides in a cave, depriving the world of sunlight, only coming out when the goddess Ame no Uzume causes a ruckus by dancing nude in front of the cave. Thanks for watching Darkness and Lore. If you have any mythology or history requests or anything else to add, please leave a comment below.